Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. I am so happy to see you guys again with me today. The day is so beautiful. We're outside. I'm going to be cooking. We're going to be making a huge batch of tomato soup. And it's not only tomato soup. Oh no, we're making this amazing soup. And I'm going to be canning it. So stick with me. We've got a full day of work ahead of us. Friends, it's been a minute since I've seen you guys. I wasn't feeling so spectacular. The past couple of weeks was kind of down and just like I think I was a little bit overworked. Like we were trying to do entirely too much at once. But I have rested, I am recouped, I am feeling so much better. And I figured I'm going to tackle this tomato situation going on. So we went and had purchased a whole bunch of meats and different things. If you guys don't know, my dog has really serious allergies. So I make all of his food, which means sometimes stocking up on meats for him for a long period of time. And we did that, and then I realized that I had no freezer space because my freezers were full of tomatoes. So I have to tackle it. Now I removed the bags of tomatoes, of frozen tomatoes, from the freezer, put them in a bowl, and put them to defrost in the refrigerator, and they are ready to go and rock and roll. So today, I was feeling good. The weather's really nice. We're in the 70s, the high 70s, but we're still in the 70s in South Florida, so I'm taking advantage. Now, out here, this is why I say not just tomato soup. I have peppers. I have onions. These are all homegrown, by the way. Like I picked the smallest ones because they're going to go in a soup, but still homegrown peppers. So excited about that, by the way, because I winning, right? And then, all the other purchase stuff like butternut squash because I can't get this to grow. And carrots and celery. We're putting all of this into our tomato soup. And then I'm going to blend it. It's going to look like a tomato soup and taste way better than a regular tomato soup and be highly nutritious because it's going to have all of these different vegetables in it that are good in the long run. So I'm going to start off out here. I've got my cutting board. Let me show you guys. Got my cutting board, got my butternut squash here, and I'm only going to use the top half. This is a really big butternut squash. I'm going to use the bottom half for a different recipe, but right now, notice what I did. I just put my knife, and then I'm using this hand that's holding the squash to rock it back and forth while applying light pressure with the knife. No need to struggle. It just saws right through it because I know a lot of times we have a hard time with that. Let me show you one more time with the top here. Light pressure, and then you just rock it back and forth, and you're good to go. Okay, I like to always break it down into smaller pieces like this. There you go. And it makes it a lot easier and a lot safer. We only have a few days of this really light spring weather left before the unbearable heat starts to kick in again. So I want to take advantage and cook outside and be outdoors as much as possible. Now all of this is getting blended, so I'm not going to cook it. I'm not going to chop it up into really small, fine pieces. I used to do this for my son when he was little and he was going through that stage where he didn't like vegetables. I would put vegetables into everything and he had no idea. He was like, "This is delicious." And I was like, "Right?" There was vegetables in his macaroni and cheese. There was vegetables in everything. Pasta sauce, you name it. That boy was getting veggies. Okay, we're going to do the same with the onions, just like a rough chop. I need to get a trash bowl or like a small trash bag ready. Okay. Just a rough chop. We're gonna saute these vegetables, let them brown and caramelize while I juice my tomatoes. And of course, I'm using the Weber. So we've got our pan heating up, and I'm going in with a few tablespoons of olive oil. Remember, this is a large scale. Normally, you wouldn't use so much, but that's what we want here. So I'm adding onions and peppers, and we're just going to keep going. We're going to keep adding. With the carrots, we're going to do the same thing. Just kind of take the tops off and just rough chop them. They've been peeled and they've been washed, chopped, and into the pot they go. Okay, let's do the same thing with our squash. Get it in there. Now for the celery. Keep that little bit for later. Okay, so I'm just going to remove the woody ends. Leaves and everybody else go into this pot. They have amazing flavor. They're tender and they'll break down. Very good. So now, okay, friends, stir all of that up. Take a peek in there. I don't know if you can see it, but it's very vegetable. So now we're going to season with salt and pepper. Vigorous salt and pepper. Don't be shy. This is a big pot. Now, if you're making this on a smaller scale, adjust. Salt and pepper should be to taste anyways. So if the person tells you to add 2 tablespoons of salt and pepper, oh, do what you want. I'm going to end up adding more salt later, but that's a good place to start. Okay, friends, so while these vegetables are simmering here, sauteing, getting nice and beautiful, letting that Maillard reaction kind of take over, develop that caramel flavor in the vegetables, I'm going to get started with the Weber on the tomatoes. All right, friends, so we have our bags upon bags upon bags of our frozen tomatoes. Now, they're completely defrosted. They're nice and soft, so the Weber is going to make Vivor? I think it's Vivor, but I want to say Weber. Do you guys know what it's called? Is it Vivor or Weber? Let me know. Anyways, I forgot one bag, and it's like a quarter of the way full. It was just what was left, and it was in the back of the freezer. I just found it, so I put it out in Nature's Defroster, aka the sun, so that it'll make quick work of defrosting those tomatoes. And we are going to get started on this. Now, this is loud. Bear with me. Oh boy, this is going to be so much fun. I grew all of this. I've never grown this many tomatoes before, but I did it. I grew this. These are my tomatoes. Yeah. Friends, our vegetables are sauteing beautifully. We have a pot full of strained tomato sauce here, just kind of ready to go in and make our soup. I'm gonna add a couple of tablespoons of minced garlic. It's gonna give it just really good flavor, not to mention the fact that garlic is super duper good for you. I'll make sure I get every last little bit. Now, I don't add the garlic right away when I add the vegetables into it. I always add those a little bit later because you don't want your garlic to burn. When garlic burns, it gets a bitter taste to it and nobody likes it. You want that beautiful garlic flavor without burnt. It gets bitter. Okay? So to this, you can choose to keep this fully just vegetables, fully vegetarian. I'm going to be adding a few tablespoons of chicken bouillon base. I love this stuff. It gives a really nice richness. I'm also going to add a couple tablespoons of granulated onion. Now, yes, we added real onions or fresh onions, but that's okay. We're just like reinforcing flavors. Adding that in, we're doing the same thing with granulated garlic. About a teaspoon and a half of the granulated garlic. It gives different, it hits a little different on the tongue when it's fresh versus when it's granulated, so you just kind of want it to catch everywhere. We're gonna work that into the vegetables, and then last but not least, a little bit of Italian seasoning, or a lot of it. I always add a couple tablespoons because it just tastes good. You know, you expect, at least I do, that little bit of oregano, basil in with my tomato soup. It's just smells amazing. Now, if you wanted to, if you felt comfortable with it, you could add a little bit of wine to deglaze at this point. I'm not going to be doing that, but if you felt like you could do that, like you wanted to do that, if this was being served only for adults, go ahead and do that. The majority of the wine does cook off, but I have a feeling that I'm going to be serving this to my godson, not just my son, and my godson's 2 years old, so we're not going to be doing that. Now I'm going to pour all of this beautiful homegrown tomato sauce in there with those veggies, and I'm going to scrape the bottom. Make sure you pick up all those beautiful brown bits because brown food tastes good. Oh, that's going to be so good. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I grew up having tomato soup and grilled cheese. And it was always like the Campbell's tomato soup, which is good, but it's not this. Okay, so we're going to let this simmer and reduce, and I will show you guys what our next step is in just a moment. Friends, so we've got our soup here, and it is thick, it's delicious, but we are about to make this a lot thicker, way creamier. So I'm going to run this soup, it's still a little warm, but the Ninja can handle it, through my Ninja blender. And we're going to get this really nice and smooth now. That butternut squash, those carrots, that celery, everything being blended nice and thin and like velvety is how it's going to be. It's so good. It adds a natural thickness to this without having to reduce it all the way down. So it's going to be super, super beautiful. Okay, let's get to it. We've got a lot more work to do. So let's roll this until it's smooth. Okay, friends, so our next step is to fill these quart jars with our beautiful soup. Now I'm gonna fill this to about an inch under the rim. Now this isn't very hot, that's why I'm grabbing it like this. If not, I would be doing this on a table and filling it very carefully. But since this is room temperature, I can hold it without an issue. Okay guys, so I cleaned the rims already with my vinegar, and I have my lids. I picked these up at Walmart. They're the Golden Harvest ones, and they've been working really well for me over the years. No complaints. I've heard there's a ton of brands out there that are really wonderful. Maybe one day I'll give them a try, but as of right now, I'm a big fan of these. Okay, we're gonna put our bands on. Now I'm gonna water bath can this soup. We're doing finger tight. And the same pot that I cooked the soup in, I'm gonna can them in. Just gonna get it washed real quick. And get the water in it and get ready to go. All right, friends, so I just put these in and they are gonna simmer for 40 minutes. And then we can remove them from our water bath. Friends, I'm so excited to be done with today. It was so much work. But honestly, I couldn't ask for anything else. This right here, these 6 jars, you're probably thinking, why? Why would she be so excited over 6 quart jars of tomato soup? This is a sign of abundance for me. This means I grew so many tomatoes this year that I had leftover enough to make 6.5 quarts of tomato soup. That's how well my tomato harvest went this year. You guys saw my trees, and if you haven't seen that video, I'll link it down below on pulling the tomato trees, because they were done. They had given what they were going to give. But this year was the first year ever in my gardening history where I grew enough tomatoes to say we've had our fill. I had leftover, and I can do something else with it. We had picked all the tomatoes as they were ripening, and we were having sandwiches, and we were having salads, and putting them on burgers, and having them in the morning with breakfast. They were delicious. So excited about them. And as they would ripen, I would grab the tomatoes. If they started to turn a little bit riper than I would want them to be for, fresh eating, toss them into a freezer bag and pop them into the freezer. I ended up with like 6-gallon bags of tomatoes. And that's what we have in front of us here today. Like, we had such an abundance of tomatoes that there was leftovers, and we gave to neighbors, to friends, to family. We ate more tomatoes than we could have possibly imagined, including cherry tomatoes, salad tomatoes, everything. It was just a wonderful bumper crop of tomatoes this year, and I couldn't be happier than I am right now with it. And to then sit down and be able to make 6 more meals, really hearty ones, out of this. I put so many vegetables into this, and it's not just tomato soup. I mean, it's more than 50% tomato, so I'm calling it tomato soup, but it's not technically tomato soup. We have carrots and butternut squash and celery and peppers and onions and garlic and just the homegrown tomatoes. I mean, I couldn't possibly be any happier. And I'm really grateful for this experience. It was so amazing, and I had so much to be thankful for. And this is my sign of thanking. I mean, I made these meals with leftover tomatoes that were over ripening, and look at this. I still found life for it. That's what this is about. This is about how to not waste, how to find the way to make this last even longer than it normally would have. So, friends, thank you so much for being a part of my journey. I hope you learned a little something and maybe it gave you an idea on what to do for your kids and for your family. That it's not just a can of tomato soup and a quick sandwich. It could be something so much more than that. Just think outside the box a little bit. Thank you so much for joining me. You guys, you're amazing. Your support is like nothing else in this world for me. It gives me so much motivation, gets me out of bed. So, friends, thank you so much. Take care of yourselves and each other. If you're new here, consider subscribing. And if you haven't yet, don't forget to hit that like button. Have a great day. Take care of yourselves. Bye bye, friends.